MMA Now, powered by Film On TV Networks.
I'm David Kano with Film On TV Network's MMA Now, and right now we're doing a special Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. It was brought up today, earlier, by Colin Cowherd from Fox Sports, where he said that his special sources inside told him that it's going to happen. Mayweather versus McGregor on September 17th of this year, 2016, in Las Vegas, Nevada. There's been rumors. The rumors were true. I don't know. We don't know if they're true or not. So this is what we know so far. A couple weeks back, 2 weeks ago, Floyd Mayweather starts a rumor, or Floyd Mayweather Senior, says that his son is going to fight an MMA star. The MMA star was reportedly Conor McGregor, especially this is right when he was going through his fallout with the UFC after he didn't show up for the UFC 200 press conference. And the rumors started to swirl. Mayweather added it to these rumors by saying, maybe it's not a rumor. I started these, but maybe there's some truth to it. McGregor backed this up by saying on Twitter, I run boxing. He also tweeted a picture of himself facing off against Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather has said from the start, he's only going to do a match, or he would only do a match with Conor McGregor if it was boxing. He's not doing MMA. He's not doing kickboxing. He's not doing jiu-jitsu. It would be strictly boxing rules, and that's it. Fast forward to a Sunday night conversation on ESPN where Conor McGregor tells Kenny Mayne that if he was to fight Floyd Mayweather, it would be for $100 million on his side, $100 million payday. He said originally that Floyd had offered him $7 million, but then Floyd Mayweather came back and said, I offered him $50 million. So then Dana White, you mix a little bit of UFC, MMA in this. He didn't have a great trip to Stockton. Does he revisit this? Does he do a co-promotion with Mayweather? And if we think back to the Pride days, they used to do that. The UFC used to do co-promotion with Pride. Chuck Liddell went over to Pride to go fight Rampage Jackson. Dana White would go over there, and they did a co-promotion. That stopped, obviously, the past 7 to 10 years, especially with the takeoff of the UFC. I'm reading right now. I'm just using this new app. Someone says Mayweather would win. Joshua Now says Mayweather would win in a boxing match but lose in MMA. And that's 100% true. I mean, you give Floyd Mayweather would not last 90 seconds in an MMA fight with Conor McGregor. There's no way he would last 90 seconds. Conor McGregor, I think he can last 90 seconds in a boxing match with Floyd Mayweather. Can he win? That's a different speculation. But let's get back to, can this fight happen? Back to the co-promotion part. If they did this as a co-promotion, this would obviously be the biggest fight in UFC history. It would be bigger than Mayweather. I mean, I'm sorry. It would be bigger than McGregor versus Diaz, which is about 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. UFC 196. UFC 200 is slated to do probably around that ballpark, in between that 1.2 million to 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. But if they set up a Mayweather versus McGregor in a boxing match, I'm predicting it to do at least probably about 2 million pay-per-view buys. We look back to Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. That did 4.4 million and did $600 million in total revenue. Floyd took home roughly about 300 million. Manny Pacquiao, 180 million. But you look, what would this be? I mean, it would be a circus. There's no doubt it would be a circus, as I said. I mean, but I think there's a lot of intrigue to it. And the more you think about it, the more feasible it's beginning to think. You know, in the beginning you think, okay, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. It's not. And now you're thinking, well, maybe it's going to happen. And if we look back to the UFC, have they done anything in the boxing realm? Well, if you look back to James Toney came over. He said, I can fight MMA. I can fight MMA. Dana White gave him one shot, main event against Randy Couture. And what happened? You put a boxer in a mixed martial arts octagon or a ring under those rules. James Toney, one of the best pound for pound boxers of his era, and maybe top 100 boxers of all time. What didn't even get off one punch. He didn't throw one punch. Randy Couture went in there, grabbed him, took him down, and it was over. But now, if you switch the roles, if the roles are reversed, and you put an MMA star in a boxing ring, can an MMA fighter not just hang, but can they beat? And here's the thing with Conor McGregor, he lost to a bigger striker, someone bigger than him in boxing, and now he's trying to get into the ring with one of the best pound for pound boxers of his era. Is he one of the best pound for pound all time? That's up for to debate that. But as far as hitting him, like how's Conor McGregor going to touch Floyd Mayweather? He has the best defensive boxing in boxing history, hands down. No one can say that someone has taken less damage than Floyd Mayweather Jr. There's nobody that can say that. I also think he's probably the smartest boxer of all time. If you look at the way he always adjusts to a fight, he hadn't been cut since Marcos Maidana cut him, and he hadn't been hit flush since Shane Mosley had hit him a few years back. And after that round, I believe it was the second or third round, he came back and he won every round since then. Miguel Cotto, same thing. Floyd Mayweather is smart. He's not going to be baited into a fight. Floyd Mayweather fights his game, fights his fight. The one fight he didn't fight his game was against the first fight against Marcos Maidana. He tried to give fans what they wanted to see. Best defensive fighter. Yeah, he is the best defensive fighter. Most boring to watch. He can be boring to watch. He's not going to knock someone out. He's going to come in there. He's a pugilist and break them down. So, does Conor McGregor have a punching chance? Yeah, he does have a punching chance. But how's he gonna get in on him? How would he connect against Floyd Mayweather Jr.? And now that this talk is me even talking about this is pretty asinine. I mean, a year ago, 6 months ago, we would have never thought that we would be talking Mayweather versus McGregor. It was supposed to be a rematch against Diaz, and the talks have stalled with that. And now here we have Floyd being bored. He's out of contract. He fought out his Showtime contract, and now he's just looking for a super fight. Floyd has said he's taking a guaranteed 100 million. That's it. 100 million bottom line, and that's all he would do. And he would make that against Conor McGregor. People would watch that fight earlier today. I was at a UFC gym. One of the trainers there said he didn't think this would be as big as Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Would it be as big as that fight? I don't know, but it would do no less than 2 million views. Again, it's going to be a circus. The Fox guy that broke it, Colin Cowherd, said we've booked rooms already. And then out of the blue, former NBA player Jalen Rose on ESPN said that his sources told him that the fight would happen in May of next year, May of 2017. So you have two conflicting reports. You have May, you have September of next year, September of this year. What is it going to be? We don't know. The fight has to be made first. And my question is Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta part of the discussion? Are they part of it? I mean, they have to be. The UFC contracts are structured in a way that tailors it to the UFC. Basically, as long as you're under contract with the UFC, you cannot fight in any other outside promotion unless it's per approval by the UFC. It's every single fighter contract in the UFC says that. It's standardized. There's nothing special in Conor McGregor's contract where it says, well, you're a superstar, you can go fight in another promotion. They have to be part of this dialogue. And the only way that this story is picking up traction is they must think that there is some merit to it and they're going to make some big money. And they will make some big money on a co-promotion. Obviously, they're used to just doing their own promotion and not having to share. Floyd, that'll never happen with Floyd. Floyd will have to get his. Floyd is going to get his. I mean, 100 million guaranteed. We broke this down. If you charge $100 for a pay-per-view between Mayweather and McGregor, and 2 million people buy it, that's 200 million. So Floyd gets 100 million. McGregor wants 100 million. That leaves nothing left to the pot. But if McGregor takes 50 million, then that leaves another 50 million, which the UFC can use. They'd probably make more on that fight than they would at UFC 200. They may or may it'd be pretty close. It would be pretty close. And if we look back to Floyd's last fight against Andre Berto, he didn't do that. It didn't even break 500,000 pay-per-view buys. The fight, it was a sinker. It was last fight on the contract. He did 49. It was brought him to 49-0, but it didn't move the needle. Of Floyd tried to hype it up that Andre Berto was this and that, but Andre Berto was coming off losses. He had lost to Victor Ortiz. He lost to Jesus Soto Caras. He lost to Robert Guerrero. Actually, and then previous to that, he had 2 wins. But no one wanted to see Floyd go against Andre Berto. A rematch against Manny Pacquiao would have been better. What I was hearing, what my source within the TMT, the Mayweather camp was saying, was that Floyd was going to do a rematch against Manny Pacquiao when T-Mobile Arena opened in May of 2016. That date's come, it's gone by, and it didn't happen. So obviously, that source was not correct. We know Manny Pacquiao went on to fight. Manny Pacquiao fought Timothy Bradley in a trilogy in April, which didn't excite fans. I mean, Bob Arum said the numbers, it was terrible. Manny Pacquiao, coming off that win, though, he said he's retired. He's now a senator. That could still be, I still think that's a fight that can be made, Mayweather versus Pacquiao, but there's so many loopholes with Pacquiao being a senator. What's the next best thing other than Manny Pacquiao? There's no one in boxing. I mean, Floyd beat Canelo. He did, and then Floyd, I'd like to see him fight Triple G, but he doesn't want to fight Triple G. Floyd claims that Triple G is too big. I've seen them both in person. Triple G is about the same height as Canelo. He might be a little bit bulkier, but Triple G said he would go ahead and make the 154 weight limit, which Floyd has fought Canelo at 152, which means that Triple G could make 152. But even his father, I don't think he wants to see Triple G right now, especially in Triple G's prime. If you go with Conor McGregor, McGregor's now, he's an MMA fighter. He's not a boxer. And of course, McGregor's a master promotion train as well, where he says, well, I'll put away my jiu-jitsu. I'll put away my kickboxing. I'll put away my Muay Thai. I'll put away my wrestling. I'll put away all my other tricks in my bag, which makes me a mixed martial artist. I'll just use boxing, and I'll come and I'll fight you. Again, I'd see the fight. I mean, I think most fans would say, "Oh, on Twitter, I'll read some Twitter."
Somebody on Facebook just asked, "Is Mayweather Pacquiao a bigger fight than a Mayweather McGregor?"
I think in their prime, Mayweather and Pacquiao, this should have been done 6 years ago. Pacquiao was in his prime. Mayweather was in his prime, and Mayweather's still fighting at a high level, a high caliber. I don't think there's many boxers out there or fighters period that could beat him in a boxing match. Now you put that against McGregor right now. That's the biggest fight that could happen right now. What's bigger in UFC that could happen? John Jones is going to fight Daniel Cormier on UFC 200. This is probably the second biggest fight next to a McGregor-Diaz matchup. But you elevate that with McGregor versus Mayweather, and that's taking this whole thing, this whole gravy train to new levels. So both sports, exactly. That's Ray Rowan, our content producer, MMA Now TV. It's going to take both sports to this whole new threshold. You take the boxing world and the MMA world and you put it together, and now it's this big juggernaut. So boxing helps out MMA helps out boxing, and most importantly, they're helping the pockets of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mystic Mac, which after this fight, it'd be Money May and Money Mac. If we look at Conor's record in MMA, he's 19-3. He had that huge knockout over Jose Aldo, big knockout over Chad Mendes, Dennis Seaver, Dustin Poirier, Diego Brando. He's been on a tear, and I think Mayweather has been using this to his advantage as far as saying, hey, this guy's a known striker. He lost to a bigger guy than him, and that's the reason why he lost. I think Mayweather knows deep down inside he would beat McGregor in a boxing match. Let it be like this. It wouldn't be anything else. You add in some kicks, add in just strictly leg kicks. McGregor easily beats Mayweather. He would just chop his legs down. You add in some wrestling. One of the things I was thinking earlier was the only way McGregor would have a shot was to get a point deduction by maybe throwing an elbow to cut Mayweather, or picking him up and doing a slam to rattle him. I mean, there's no, in a straight boxing match, you've had the biggest punchers in boxing. Granted, they fought Floyd out of their prime. I mean, and even the De La Hoya fight, was a lot closer than a lot of people think. But he fought De La Hoya out of his prime. He fought Shane Mosley out of his prime. He fought Miguel Cotto out of his prime. And I don't think if those fighters with those big punches weren't able to do anything to Floyd, what makes you think Conor McGregor is going to be able to do anything else? They're not wearing the 4-ounce gloves. They're wearing Mayweather for those lighter weights. It's anywhere from between 8 and 12 ounces. I think Mayweather's going to want 10-ounce gloves. He's not going to take as much. He might have even had 12-ounce gloves against Pacquiao. I'm not sure what.
Remember, there was an issue about the gloves. They were checking the gloves.
There was an issue with the gloves. They wanted to make sure. Well, they also did that against Marcos Maidana. He wanted the lighter or the heavier weighted gloves for the fight because Floyd complained about brain damage. He's like, well, at the end of the day, I'm like, well, you're making, how much money are you making and to be signed up for this? Jack Sam says McGregor's faster than Mayweather from what I can tell. That's wearing 4-ounce gloves. I mean, and again, you've seen McGregor fight. You haven't seen him fight a boxer. That was Jack Sam on you now. What I don't think is he's not faster than Mayweather in a boxing match. There's no way. If you see a boxer train versus an MMA fighter and they're striking, I'm not talking about legs, just they're striking with their hands, it's a night and day difference. That's why when you see a Stipe Miocic, who was a Golden Gloves boxer, do what he was able to do against Fabricio Verdum. He's not even a pro boxer. He did Golden Gloves, but he has that element, he has that background, he has that base to be able to do that. You look at Junior Dos Santos, one of the best boxers in MMA as well. And what he's been able to do with his boxing, he also knocked out Fabricio Verdum. But you put Junior Dos Santos said he would fight Vladimir Klitschko. You put Junior Dos Santos against Vladimir Klitschko, it's going to be an ugly, ugly day. Jack Sit Sam said Drew McGregor was an amateur boxer. But then again, that's the difference. You have an amateur boxing background, again, going against 49-0, one of the best pound for pound in his era and one of the best of all time. I wouldn't put him in the best of all time. I think I think there are maybe like 10 fighters ahead of him, best of all time, but he's still best defensive boxer of all time, maybe the smartest boxer of all time. That would not happen against a Conor McGregor, an amateur. This is what happened. Let me tell you a story. I saw one of the Golden Boys boxers. He's a welterweight professional, top 20 in the United States, top 50 in the world. One of the top amateurs wanted to spar him in a sparring match, headgear, the whole nine. They went one round before the amateur boxer got dropped by a body shot, and he was down on the ground for at least 2 to 3 minutes. He couldn't get up. He couldn't get up for air. Jackson Sam is also saying, he's adding that he thinks McGregor will win, but he doesn't think it'll be a whitewash. It's interesting to see because McGregor can take a punch, but we saw what happened when he was hurt. When he was hurt, what did he do? He turned into a wrestler. He went and he shot in. If McGregor gets hurt by Mayweather, he can't shoot in. He can't shoot in. What's he good? He could take a knee. He could take a 10 count. He could take a 9 count or 8 count, 7 count. But he can't shoot in if he gets hurt by Floyd. Again, Floyd's a smaller guy. Floyd doesn't cut that much weight, so McGregor is going to be the bigger guy. Floyd's about 5'8", McGregor's 5'9", 5'9" and a half. Walks around 170 to 175 range, and cuts it down to 45 for when he fights at featherweight. That's the other thing that'd be interesting. What weight class would they box at? Would they box at welterweight? Would it be 47? Would it be at welterweight, or would they fight at a catch weight of 152? Maybe it's a 154, a junior middleweight division. We don't know. We don't know all the logistics. I really don't. How close is this fight to being made? Unless there's things going on behind the scenes, this has to be almost a lot of dialogue going on. And the good thing with Floyd is not with Top Rank. He's not with Golden Boy Promotions. He's his own promoter. He's able to go straight and do a deal with the UFC. Dana White has said in the past, hey, Floyd, if you want to fight Conor, call me. Maybe Floyd did call. I don't know. Maybe Dana called Floyd. We don't know what's going on to make something like this happen. And it's just interesting that all this talk is happening in lieu of the talks that the UFC might be sold. Those talks have quelled some. And what my source said last year was that the UFC, they were looking to sell, but they were looking to do one big fight before they got out of the game, before they got out of MMA. What they said was they were going to do New York, do one big fight in New York, and then get out. That didn't happen last year. They were expecting, my source said, probably December that would happen, but now it's going to be, that didn't happen. Obviously, New York is ready to go in November. Was bigger than a Mayweather versus McGregor in New York, a Mayweather McGregor in Las Vegas. You could do either or. You could do either states, either place, and it's going to do big numbers. Daniel B said Anderson Silva is better than someone else. Anderson Silva has nothing to do with this conversation. We hope Anderson Silva gets better from his gallbladder removal. But getting back to the Mayweather McGregor thing, it's interesting that we're talking about this. I mean, we've never done a special report, a special MMA Now TV until right now. Why? Because maybe there's some merit to what's being said. Fox said it, ESPN said it. Now, granted, they were from their analysts, but an analyst doesn't blindly go on and say something if they didn't hear it from an inside source. But I went on Twitter last year and said, Manny Pacquiao is not doing any sparring. He has a hurt right hand or shoulder, and it came out after the fight that he had a torn rotator cuff, a right rotator cuff. It was true. So there has to be something going on right now. I think if the trip to Stockton went well between Dana and Lorenzo, maybe we're not even talking about this right now. I think that fight could have been a done deal in August to rematch, but now that deal didn't go well, it's one of those things where I can pay both of my superstars a lot of money, or I can pay one superstar a lot of money, do a co-promotion, and now make a lot of money and just pay my superstar this insane amount of money that's never been seen before by any MMA fighter. And if you look at the salaries, it's not really close. The top boxers in the world get paid way more than the top MMA fighters, hands down. Canelo Alvarez, for his last fight, took home over $10 million with pay-per-view buys. With the pay-per-view buys, I think he was guaranteed five. He was guaranteed five to 10, something like that. I think Miguel Cotto, when he fought in his loss against Canelo, he made 10 to 14. It's not a bad payday. I mean, what UFC, the UFC stars today, maybe they're making a McGregor, a John Jones, 10 million. Jackson Sam brought up McGregor made 400 million for UFC and Nate Diaz fight. He didn't make 400 million for the UFC in that fight. He made 400 million in the past 8 months. That's the Diaz fight. That's the Jose Aldo fight. The fight before with Dennis Seaver, and even the fight before he was on the main card against Dustin Poirier. So he's brought in big numbers. That wasn't based. Those numbers weren't based on one fight. Interesting time. If September comes and goes and this fight did not happen, I don't think this fight is going to happen. If it doesn't happen by next May, for sure it's not going to happen. So we just got to wait a little bit longer to see if it indeed will happen. Right before we get out of here, there was other big news. BJ Penn is out versus Cole Miller, UFC 199. It was reported that Michael Bisping was out, or Michael Bisping is in. Chris Weidman is out against Luke Rockhold. BJ Penn was flagged for an anti-doping infraction, but it wasn't for a doping violation. What happened was BJ Penn didn't know he was not allowed to use an IV out of competition as well as in competition. He used an IV to replenish himself, and then he admitted that he used an IV. He admitted he used an IV, and then they went ahead and they said they flagged him, or they pulled him from the fight due to him basically telling on himself. He said he didn't know. It was just an error, an ignorant error that he didn't know about. Cole Miller, there has been no replacement as of now, but that came in a few hours ago. BJ Penn is out of UFC 199. And you remember when BJ Penn used to be big? You remember those days when BJ Penn was the headliner? Yeah. I mean, BJ, I remember I would be wherever I worked at, from one of the jobs I got fired from, and I would always want to know who won the fight. Was it BJ Penn? That's BJ Penn was the UFC. Then it was Chuck Liddell. They were the UFC, and before you had to check on them. Now we're talking Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Conor McGregor potentially. It's changed. It's a whole nother animal. It's bigger than I think. I think the UFC, Lorenzo, Frank, Dana, they thought they could get it to a bigger level, and they thought they can grow it. I'm not sure they thought it would be this big, this quickly, or if it exceeded their expectations. If it was me, it would have exceeded my expectations in the time frame that it did it. When I started covering MMA professionally in 2013, it was big, but it wasn't where it is now. I mean, I remember Invicta was just getting off the ground. They didn't really they were streaming their fights online. Now they're on Fight Pass. Combate Americas was not even thought of. They're on UFC Fight Pass. Venators, it's a promotion I just heard about in Italy, and they're getting Fox Sports coverage. Mixed martial arts, I'm gonna take this line out of Conor McGregor. Mixed martial arts didn't come to take part; they came to take over. And is it gonna pass up soccer or football or basketball anytime soon? Probably not. It could. It could. That's how fast it's going. And initially, I criticized the UFC for putting on so many shows. I didn't criticize. I said, could this oversaturate MMA? And Ray knows as well at that time. Did you think that it would oversaturate MMA?
It started to feel like it was being oversaturated.
It really felt like that. You had, instead of these once a month pay-per-views, which people got rallied around, everyone chipped in and saved their money and to go see all the named fighters, you started having these cards develop where you didn't know who the fighters were. And then once the Fox deal came through, well, it added a whole nother plethora of programming. And I have to say now, from when that initially happened, I'm actually happy. It's kind of weird when there's not an MMA fight. And obviously Bellator is on the rise as well. Bellator signed some huge signings over there. Phil Davis, Josh Thompson, Benson Henderson, and they have the guys that came up through there. King Mo, Tito Ortiz is over there as well. So Bellator is doing their thing, and they're helping out with this growth. So it's just expected. A name fight is going to come up every week. For instance, this weekend at UFC Fight Night, UFC Vegas, Cody Garbrandt versus Thomas Almeida, and in the main event. And then you have a lot of guys, people know who they are. You have Aljamain Sterling, the 4th ranked bantamweight in the UFC division. He's fighting Brian Cowboy. Their names are being known a lot more than they used to be in the beginning, and the roster has grown as well. I mean, it was 400 for a while, and I think we're almost at 600 on the UFC roster alone. It's just incredible what's happened, and it hasn't been an oversaturation. I think they didn't know what other way to feed it into it. Joshua now says Bellator is for sooner retired fighters, people not good enough for the UFC. You know what? I would disagree with Joshua now. I disagree. The fact being is Ill Will Brooks. A lot of people haven't heard of Ill Will Brooks. Out of Chicago, he was the Bellator lightweight champion, and I've followed Bellator. He's won his fights handedly. He beat Michael Chandler, and he's beat guys that supposedly could have went up against him, and now Bellator cut him at his request because it's his dream to go to the UFC, and now he's going to get a shot. So I don't think that Couture Fan 39 since I became a fan. I don't think Bellator is strictly now just for the retired or people that are not good enough. Is there a level of difference in Bellator? Yes, but I mean, look at Phil Davis. Phil Davis, if he was in the UFC right now, he'd still be a top 10 light heavyweight in the world. Yes or no?
Yes.
Top 10. I mean, who else? You could put Phil Davis in that top 10. There's somewhere in there you can interchange in that top 10 light heavy. Is Phil Davis the most interesting guy or the most exciting guy to watch?
Mr. Wonderful.
No, but he's good. I mean, he's good at what he does. That fight with King Mo could have went both ways. I mean, King Mo is someone else that I think could be potentially in the top 10 in the UFC. He got rocked hard by Phil Davis, and that was almost the fight. The fight got exciting in the third round. But I wouldn't say that Bellator was a step down. So, and if you look back at Strikeforce, look at the people from Strikeforce that are champions. Daniel Cormier, Strikeforce champion, heavyweight champion, UFC light heavyweight champion. Luke Rockhold, Strikeforce champion, middleweight, UFC middleweight champion. Misha Tate, Strikeforce 145 champion, and now UFC women's bantamweight champion. And there's one more that was champ. I think that lost. Verdum was champion. So Rousey was champion in Strikeforce. So you have all these people like you can't. I wouldn't say Bellator is a step down. It's just different. Yeah, Strikeforce was bought by the UFC. I mean, Pride was bought by the UFC. So Bellator is just different. They're using different. I mean, it's kind of weird because they put on some good fights, but then they'll do like the Kimbo, and I know we're getting way off the Mayweather McGregor, but they'll do like the Kimbo Dada 5000 fight, which is you have the guy that just got off the couch that's made a documentary in South Florida, yelling out words every other word, and then you have him going against another street, the backyard fighter. That's weird. So their algorithm for putting on fights is a little weird. The point being of this whole thing is MMA. It's like this. It was this. Imagine some clay. You became a fan. I'm glad you guys became fans. I guess became fans of something new. Like this is all new.
One more question touching on the Mayweather McGregor. Obviously, it's going to be a boxing match. If it does happen, it's not going to be an MMA match. If it were to be an MMA fight, how long would Floyd Mayweather last with McGregor? Would he last longer than Jose Aldo? 13 seconds.
Floyd Mayweather would 100% last longer than Jose Aldo in an MMA fight against Conor McGregor. Why? Because Floyd's defensive. He's not going to come out charging like a bull. It's 13 seconds. 13 seconds is a short amount of time. Conor's not going to rush him and be able to take him out in 13 seconds. So yes, he would last longer. He would not last 90 seconds though against Conor McGregor in an MMA fight. I actually think Conor might be able to go 12 rounds with Floyd. I mean, unless he was going for the kill, then I think Floyd can catch him. But I think if they were just straight boxing, a straight sparring match, Conor could go 12 rounds. If Conor goes for the kill, that's something else because Floyd will just outbox Conor. There's no way. I mean, there is a way. There's always a way someone can win. Where there's a will, there's a way. But in this situation, there's no way, no chance unless he ran faster than Floyd. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think I could last if Floyd. I agree with ESPN's Kenny Mayne. I could last with Floyd Mayweather if there was 15 rounds at 1 second each round. I'm lasting 15 rounds. I can go 1 second for 15 rounds. That's 15 seconds. I'm lasting 15 seconds. Okay, but it's not me. It's Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. And again, we wouldn't be here right now. It's 10:03 on the West Coast Pacific time. It's 1 a.m. on the East Coast. Yeah, 1 a.m. on the East Coast. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this Mayweather McGregor hype. That's going to do it for right now. We're going to actually make sure I'm glad you guys are fans. We're going to be shooting Daily Dose tomorrow. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter, the Decano. I'm #1 on MMA, which I don't think anyone's using this for MMA. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at MMA Now TV. Want to thank Ray Roman, our content producer, the guy behind the scenes that's always making this happen. This doesn't happen without Ray Roman. And we want to thank Film On TV Network. We want to thank Brian Shepard. And we also want to thank our PR and marketing coordinator, Tyler Irvin. And from me to you, just be prepared. If this goes down, it's going to be circus. That's all I can say. We'll see you next time on MMA Now TV.
MMA Now, powered by